on the first chapter of today's session, Navigating Career Phases, A Woman's Journey. First thing we need to remember is that our career lifespan can go between 30 to 50 years. So careers are not just necessarily a job, it's a long period of time to be working. And your career, just like your life, is not a competition. Your career, your job title alone gives us a status in society. I am a manager of what you do, your job title, your seniority. But what we've got to remember is during that 30 to 50 years, you are learning your entire career. If you've been working for the last even 15 years, how you did things when you first started versus how you are doing things have substantially shifted. So let's look at the 3 typical phases. Sure, here we go. I'm not sure why the screen is insisting. Yeah. So I think it's got some form of animation. Bear with me a second. Okay. So the 3 distinct phases, not necessarily just for women, across really anyone that is working, for all genders. But where I want to really put my focus in today is really specifically looking at women. So our phase 1, which can vary anything from 0 once we've graduated, or early, sort of late teens, all the way to our early 30s. This is where we are looking to explore who we are, identify what it is that we are good at. We are still discovering who we are. So a lot is exploration, but we are also trying to establish ourselves, establish an identity, establish what is it that we want to be achieving, what we are good at. So the main drivers in phase 1 is exposure to new experiences, really learning and development. The middle phase, which is very interesting, which has everything to do with really advancement. It's all about status. It's all about seniority. You've gained a lot of experience. You are looking for autonomy, more responsibility, more accountability. But at the same time, for women, what is interesting in this phase is that because we are really from our late 20s into our mid 40s, this is where we are likely to have children. This is where we are looking also for more stability. This is where we kind of we don't take as many gambles as we should do. Yet this is the period that we crave the most amount of advancement, seniority, kind of consolidating all of our experience. And then when it comes to our latter phase, really impact, advocacy, mentorship, legacy. These are the kind of things. We've got so many years of experience. You know, the titles don't necessarily just pull us. So let me try and go into now. Here we go. So the early phase, you know, it really depends for individuals. It can go from 0 to 5. From some, it can go from 0 to 10 years. That first 10 years, really getting that experience. I'm not sure why this is today not working. I could make this a lot smaller. Yeah, I might have to just work like this. Okay. So what is the age? From late teenagehood all the way to our late 20s. What drives us is learning. As women, this is actually when we are most ambitious in our career. We still don't have children. Some of us in Kenya, we get married very early on, you know. Therefore, it's also very likely that by the time you've reached your late 20s, that you already have 1 or 2 small children. But essentially, the key characteristics is about transitioning from that education into workforce. Because you have little experience, but a high willingness to learn, means that you are also very flexible in where you work, the longer hours you work, and really you are just looking to exposure, the exposure and also a challenge. You want to be challenged. You are looking to really develop some of those skills. You tend to work in more supervised, more instruction-based type of roles, repetitive, sometimes operational. sometimes here for all phases, but especially for women, because we don't put enough salary upon ourselves. It's a whole different topic that I will cover in how women negotiate salaries. I'll include some of it here, of course. And then establish that professional identity. When it comes to this early phase, you tend to find that it's all about identifying our values, our strengths. It's about building that confidence. It's about doing something, going through it, and then feeling that sense of, oh my God, I've done it. And in this early phase, very similar to man, this is where we really emphasize on searching for challenges and making a significant progress. This is why we say this is actually one of the period for women, particularly, that is high ambition and determination. The challenges when you are in that early phase, lack of experience combined with your youth makes it difficult to find your identity. What is it that you're good at? It takes time, and sometimes not just females, but also males, when we are coming out of our undergraduates, the way we tend to look for jobs is click and apply, click and apply. We have such basic CVs that don't get picked up by many application tracking tools. Salaries, as I said, is a lot lower. You tend to go into almost any job when you come out. You may end up studying or going into a career that you've not necessarily studied. So a lot of the challenges is identifying opportunities, how you find them, who do you know, referrals, how big is your family? All of those different things can really make a substantial growth. Now, what is very interesting, and I want to mention this at this early phase because of this high level of ambition, women who have been supported, encouraged by their fathers, women who have the undivided support of their father by listening to them, believing in them, encouraging them, tend to have not just the highest salaries out there, but they will not put up with anything. That ambition tends to grow a lot. And I find that it's not just in the early phase, it's throughout all of our career. That relationship and endorsement that we get from the male, from our father, is so important. Of course, the impact of the love, the support our mother gives us, the belief that she gives us, all of those things, of course, encourage us. So let's look at more the middle phase. The middle phase has certain characteristics. And what is interesting, when you are in between these phases, even if you are really happy in your job, it's like an elastic band pulling. You tend to find really from 8 years experience up to that sort of 15 to 18 years experience, that core of that middle phase is where we tend to be looking for a lot. First of all, this is where we grow, advance our careers. This is where we move into leadership. This is where we pursue higher opportunities, more responsibility. We want to consolidate our career. Here we invest in our masters. We invest in licenses, in all sorts of other qualifications. And when you are in this phase at the beginning of it and towards the end of it, you will have gone through that middle phase journey. Now, as women, this is the phase that we are very likely to have 2 to 3 children, potentially all in school. So balance essentially means work-life flexibility. I cannot just go to the office. You tend to have more say in where you are going, where you are not going. But typically from sort of your early 30s to your mid 40s, this is where your children are growing. This is where your career tends to grow, your remuneration tends to increase, you tend to do a lot more of your growth, and this is the main phase. What is different between men and women is what drives us. At this stage, for men, they really focus much more about leadership, seniority, more money, and for them, that balance is not as critical for them. The balance is for women. And balance essentially means flexibility. I need to be able to pick up my kids. I need to be able to go to the school, to do whatever is necessary. You have so many more responsibilities during this phase. So balance becomes a driver. And as a consequence, you also tend to find that women in the middle stages have a lot of challenges. So yes, you are really looking to gain more experience. You are looking for more. And what drives you first and foremost is a real challenge to get your bone into. Whilst at the same time, you still need to keep that balance. So you tend to find women here also, because we have the children, and especially if we have a role where we feel we have a good level, or we've adapted to that company's policies of working from home or whatever else, that we tend to eliminate risk here. Better the devil I know than better the devil I don't. There are certain things, I don't want to shake the boat at this stage. And therefore, when I headhunt women in the middle phases of their career, they tend to kind of, they are much more first hesitant to go and explore opportunities, but also what they are much more interested in, or for me to get a woman's attention, I will talk about the benefit package. You get really good insurance, medical cover. You get a lot of extra holidays. You have all of the things. You can work from home. Your role is flexible. So this is the kind of things that will get a woman to come to an interview. And I tend to find, even at this phase, when women do go to an interview, come to an offer, receive an offer, this is consistently the phase where I find women saying, you know what, I have thought about it. I have consulted with several of my non-career coaching entities, but people who seem to have a lot of opinion in your career advised me that I shouldn't take this role. And many times women will not only not go for interviews or not go or not even take offers, simply because that balance, that flexibility, that area where we have those potential kids in school and it's an oxymoron, because here is where we are driven by more seniority. This is where we want to get a bone in our mouth. We want a real challenge. We want something that's going to take us, more autonomy, more status means I can make more decisions. It's not just I want to manage people. It's that I want to sit in the decision making. I want to have that accountability. I want to be able to make decisions. So it's a very interesting phase here, where some women are likely to stay longer in jobs because of that requirement of that stability. But this is where, as I said, those challenges that come in. And then if we look at towards the final phase of our career, once we've got that 18, 20 years plus, there are certain things. We have a lot of experience, expertise. We know who we are. We have accumulated a lot of industry knowledge. We've accumulated technology. We've seen an evolution of different people from youth all the way to your age. What drives you at this phase is, first, you are much more interested in making leadership strategic decision. That strategy is really a big one. The other thing at this stage also is you've worked for 20, 25 years. Every day you've been working with very little break. This is where you want to begin to create more work-life balance. I don't want to have to travel so much. In that middle phase, we want that regionality. We want a bigger challenge, but we can't travel all the time. And that's where some of those sacrifices in that middle phase for a woman get made. 1 second. I hope this flickering constant light, I'm almost tempted to turn it off. Anyways, let me continue. So the final phase, what is it that drives us? Impact. We want to make a difference. We want to leave a legacy. This is where we do mentorship. This is where we really focus on more, bringing more youths in, supporting people across different ages. So advocacy, legacy, impact are our biggest things that have meaningful engagement. We begin to look at our life values. we begin to reflect at what have we achieved? How happy have I been? So this is where we begin. Also at this stage, for women, this is where menopause comes in. And I don't know why we don't talk about it enough, but it can play havoc in a woman's life. Health issues. Maybe you've not, and we as women look after everybody else. We don't have that self-care. We're constantly so health, wellness, we start to do that, not just transition planning. We start thinking, okay, maybe I want 1 or 2 more roles. I want something that has more meaningful. Where else is my financial? I mean, in Africa, we are always doing what we call a side hustle throughout our careers, whether we are buying land or building something or creating some sort of financial sort of liquidity, buying homes, whatever it may be. But this phase is where we really begin to take it a lot more seriously. This is where we can begin to open consultancies. This is where we can begin to, let me just move here. Sorry. So let's see. Yeah. So again, the later phase, this is where you are not just focusing on how senior a job title is. Salary is very important. Now you know your value. You bring impact. You bring a lot of experience. So you are much more comfortable negotiating your salary at this phase, but what you really want to do is, it's like, as I said, aligning. You are seeking a deeper alignment between all your work, what you have been doing, and your personal values. So this is the stage, as I said, health issues. This is where we do also a lot of career transformation, consultancy, starting your own business. This is where I get a lot of my clients in the career coaching, where a lot will come from this phase. Also in the middle, especially when they've kind of hit a ceiling in their company, or because as a woman, there are so many, I'm going to talk about the gender, the stereotypes, etc. But just staying to here, why more people come is because they have so much more experience. They are comfortable to go out there and put themselves out, but they're not getting any more meaningfulness for what they've been doing thus far. So this is why is that deeper alignment in where am I at this stage to what is it that I want to be doing? What brings me more happiness? We become, at this phase, we take our needs and our requirements a lot more into consideration. So let us look at some of the common challenges for women. When I found this image, I really laughed, because if you look at the working women in the middle, you have problems at work and problems with the family, and if you think of even early phase, middle phase, late phase, some of us can have children from, if you're a Maasai woman, even before you're 18, but ultimately you have your family duties, your mother, health, education for your children, any kind of any family issues, your mother, your father, you end up looking, especially if you're eldest of the daughters. And then when it comes to work, this is where we get not sufficient maternity leave. We tend to not get more pay, the unequal pay, we know this. We tend to not look after ourselves during when all of these responsibilities come to us. Therefore, our mental just is constantly expected. On top of that, you have the sexual harassment, then you have the gender bias. We as women have to work so much harder. So especially Black women. If we talk about women in generally, fantastic. But the minute you get to a Black woman, the steep curve goes even harder. You have to work harder. You have to do all of those things, even more so. But essentially, when we look at some of the key things, really where women are doing that, some of that self-sabotaging. And it's so interesting, having interviewed thousands of women across all 3 of these phases, It is consistent, whether you are black, whether you are white, in whatever line of business you are in. Some of these are so consistent and common. So self-doubt, the amount of times women will self-eliminate, they will not look at what they have achieved. They will not look at their accomplishment. They will attribute it to, oh, you know, I had a good team. Oh, you know, my boss was really supportive. Oh, you know, it wasn't just me, it was the team. You know, the amount of times we don't, and we may even do some of the biggest projects, but we are the ones that diminish or do not fully kind of take ownership of what you have achieved. So that self-doubt happens at all levels. We tend to attribute our success to more to luck, to other external, this because of this, or I got lucky, or this. That's self-doubt. And that's where we begin to do some of our self-elimination. You know, we read a job description and we look at the job title and we think, oh, that's very senior. And then we look and we go, especially at the requirements, you look at the responsibilities and you read that and you go, yeah. Then you look at the requirements and it says you need 10 years of experience or 15 years and you have 12. I don't have enough. That whole self-doubt brings all sorts of different things. Also, as women, perfectionism is one of our biggest enemies. You know, we as women are not allowed to make mistakes in society. We are not allowed to shout in public. You know, we are not allowed to, you know, we have to be the model. We have to be perfect in everything we do. We don't want input from anybody. We are strong. We are autonomous. We like ambitious. And yet this perfectionism is just unnecessary pressure that we put in every aspect of our life. Am I a good mother? Am I a good wife? Am I a good boss? Am I a good this? Constant perfectionism and your own standards is what puts that pressure upon you in the first place. We need to look at perfectionism again as another, how can I say, disease that we need to stop putting. Why do you have to be perfect? Society expects us. The minute a mother leaves her children, oh, look at that. But every father leaving, oh, he's just, so that we also as women perpetuate this. We need to take responsibility in this. We hold women to more higher standards. You know, you cannot deviate. Overachievement or overworking. We do this, again, we overwork hard. That is just to prove our value. That is again part of the perfectionism that's coming in. We also undermine our achievements, this imposter syndrome. You know, I mean, I will share a story with you. I was maybe 7 years, maybe 8 years into my career at Oracle. And I was driving out of the office 5:30, 6 o'clock at normal roundabout, and I had just managed to buy one of my first new cars, and the car was still plastic and it smelled so new, and we tend to feel these more when we achieve. This whole thing comes up, this whole imposter syndrome, self-doubt comes up when we are actually already achieving. And as I'm driving there, I catch myself thinking in the back of my mind, one of these days, Natalia, they're going to find out you're fake. And it was just such an automatic thought that was happening in my mind that I caught it. And I thought, you've been delivering this for 8 years. You've been in recruitment now for 10 years. What is it that you are doubting? But I caught myself. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about, building that self-awareness, underestimating our achievements. I remember headhunting a CIO, Chief Information Officer, one of the few successful women who's been recognized not just in her company, but by her industry for innovation and achievement. And yet when I headhunt her and we have built that relationship, she'll come to me and say, do you really think I can do it? You know, And this is again that avoiding of challenges and opportunities. We as women self-eliminate out of fear of failure, including perfectionism. Or if you don't know something at 100%, you will feel like a fraud. Like most people, when they start a new job, they have to learn how the new process is, how does this work, what else does happens. And we also eliminate a lot of these things because unless we have above 100%, we will not go there. I have some statistics where the numbers are shocking. I mean, you can even tell women from a CV. The amount of women that self-eliminate. Men will read 3, they will have 5, 3 things that match. Yes, I can do it. The interview, yes, I can do it. Whereas women, even in an interview, well, with a bit of training and a little bit of development, I am pretty sure if I am given a chance to learn, I will be able to deliver. Even at senior level, we do that. But avoiding challenges and opportunities is one of our biggest sabotages. As I said, women in this phase want to grow, want a challenge, want to bold, but want to maintain that balance that they're going through in their lives. So not easy. Other things that we tend to do, women, is we do compare ourselves. I mean, that's just generally, you know, we compare ourselves from beauty standards to all sorts of standards. You know, when we go to church, you know, we are looking at ourselves. So we compare, and this is a natural human, it's a common human behavior where we look at, but this is why I say your life is your career, and your career is not a competition. You know, it is good to compare yourself with others, but you are only competing against yourself. So we as women sometimes will look at, and we have so much experience. We have so much demonstrable experience that we have, but because maybe we are more introverted, or maybe we haven't learned how to advocate for ourselves or speak up for what we have achieved, we have this sense of other people who do that sense of inferiority, or maybe I'm not as good. Again, going back, difficulty in accepting praise and recognition. Even I am still working with this. You know, trying when somebody says to me, "Oh, Natalia, you've changed my life." And I'm like, no, you've changed your own life. I've only given you some guidance. But then I sit and I go, yes, my knowledge has contributed. So accept what you are good at. Really accept. Try and catch yourself, that little gremlin that is thinking, oh, you're not good enough, or that is diminishing. Sit in that space when you are achieving and you are doing well and you are getting that recognition. Then be aware that monster coming in and taking away you accepting your praise. You know, we as women are, you know, especially in Africa, don't be too boastful. Don't be quiet about your achievements. You know, don't be telling anyone. Whereas men will make one movement and they will build it into a 3-tower story, etc. We do also seek external validation. We do well when people that we hold in high esteem tell us you have achieved well. I mean, we all as human beings need validation, but we as women are more likely to accept some of our accomplishments when others have validated it. You know, again, not just human, etc. Feeling like a fraud. I mean, this, I will be found out imposter syndrome. I've spoken about this. And then another thing women do is, especially when they're interviewing or they are positioning themselves, they tend to go for, you know, the high certification, the really high credentials. We tend to validate ourselves through, you know, I am CPA qualified, or, you know, LLM or LLB, or we tend to use our masters or our PhD, you know, credentials that society may endorse. We tend to use those to validate ourselves again. Now, what are some of the key things that I recommend you as a woman really begin when it comes to managing your career. Set clear career goals. Be aware of what's happening in the market. Be aware of trends that are happening. Whilst you are sitting in your job, selling all of your knowledge, are you learning anything new? This is how to make a good, is my job serving me? That's something I'm going to talk in a couple of more slides. But first, you have to set clear career goals for yourself. And don't just think about them. Go and validate your assumptions. Go and ask questions. Don't be afraid. This is one thing, you must step outside of your comfort zone. So set clear career goals. Where is it that you want to go? Where are you right now? What are the skills that you are lacking? How can you build upon those? And don't just rely your work and your office and your work employees to allow you to build some of your skills. You can do that in church. You can do that in the Rotaract. You can do that in many other areas. What is it that you want to be gaining? So set clear goals. You must take more risks. If you don't take risks, you will sit here. Ask yourself, am I going to learn anything new for the next 2 years in my job? If the answer is no, you are ready to move. And actually, it's a lot easier to find a job. A lot easier to find a job than you would ever think. I can help almost anyone find a job within 2 months. But you will not click and apply. Anyways, advocate for yourself. Learn how to qualify your successes. Try and build your visual language. So how many people have you helped? If you are running events, what is the sizes of those events? Add up all of those events. How many people have you managed? How many, if you are in finance, try and learn to provide, tell me about yourself, short version. Try and begin to advocate. Even if it feels uncomfortable, you have to do it. So build your on and offline network. Try and meet people. If you are in the same pool, you are never going to learn and go. Women do very well with mentors. Either someone more senior in your career. Mentor does not need to be in your current employer, but know what it is that you want from your mentor. Get a career coach. It's the best investment in your life. We spend money on hair, makeup, everything. We'll do all of that. And then we say, no, a CV, I would rather do it DIY, which is one of the most important documents to help you get that. And finally, you have to do self-care, self-love, self-acceptance. You have to do it regularly. You have to consciously, intentionally think of, what can I do on a daily, weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly, yearly basis that can give me that love? I mean, seriously, it sounds ridiculous. I was watching one of my cats yesterday. For 1 hour, all she was doing is just cleaning her body. I thought, oh my God, that's pure self-love for a whole hour. Imagine if I was doing that all the time. But self-care and self-love, we put ourselves at the bottom of that priority. Our child comes first, then my work, or then my boss and my sick mother, etc. But you must prioritize your self-care. Let's move a little bit more to the final phase of really beginning to, I want you to begin to be more conscious, more intentional, more strategic in how you manage your career. Wait a second, is my, I think my, pause a moment, I just need to get this charger in for my laptop, guys. Okay. Apologies, I just need to make sure my laptop is charging. So, here we go. Fantastic. So, one of the first things that I want you to begin to build some awareness is You see, how you dress, how you communicate, how you go about doing all of these different things, especially in a work environment, is sending lots of messages. So let us first just look at, what is your perception? What does your personal brand actually mean? Personal branding is essentially the ongoing process. Ongoing means it has no beginning, it has no middle, it has no end. It's an ongoing process. Whether you are aware of it or intentional or unaware of it, it is still happening. Personal branding is essentially the ongoing process of establishing a prescribed image or impression in the mind of others. So your brand is basically what other people think about you. Essentially, is other people's perception of you, your brand. So your brand belongs to you, but it sits in the mind of others. You might not be intentional, aware, or whatever else, but it's still happening. People are still perceiving you. Yes, I might dress this way, I might buy this type of jewelry, I might like to, all of these different things is how we perceive ourselves. So here is your first exercise. Bear with me. Oh, second. Technical problems, almost there. Really today, my electricity, everything is just not there. Okay, hold my, give me a second. Okay. Okay. Hopefully, laptop is going to start charging. Okay, here we go. Perfect, it's charging. Now, here's your first exercise. I would like you to think of one work colleague right now. Think of one person. Imagine that person's face in your mind. And I am now going to ask you, describe that person in 5 words. What words would you use to describe that one person you are visualizing? Now imagine that that person is standing right next to me, and I'm asking them to describe you in 5 words. What words would this person use to describe you? I would like you to do a 360-degree evaluation. Half of it is work, half of it is personal. Choose about 5 to 7 people minimum, 5 to 7 people on both sides. Select people that you work with often with versus people you don't work so often with. And try and ask them, doing a kind of a personal development program, I would like to understand, how do you, if you were to describe me in 5 words, how would you describe me? Be careful over this exercise in that other people's opinions is not who you are. So be careful not to onboard, because we like that validation. Do not take other people's opinions as who you truly are. This is an exercise for you to begin the important exercise of evaluating what is it that you are doing on a regular basis. If I were to choose 3 people in your office and I say, describe these 3 people, describe your boss, describe your VP, whatever it may be, you will have certain words. What is it that they have done for you to have those? You see, if you look at this chart, how you see yourself versus how others see you, that middle bit in the middle is where your brand truly sits. So try and ask your mother, father, children, brother, sister, friends, people that see you, ask them, describe me in 5 words. Try and get a sense. You will get some words are very similar. and some are not. Really try and do an evaluation. It's very interesting. You see, we have verbal and non-verbal communication. Non-verbal body language counts for almost 60%. What cues are you giving in your work? How are you using your eyes, your hands? Are you mirroring are you doing the right, there is a whole body language we did, I think last month for February and the month of love. We did a whole body language session. Feel free to go on our website, on our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to do. It's really valuable for women to begin to understand how to decode their own body language, how you're doing that, but also your appearance, your hair, your clothes. And remember, when you are interacting with people, people never remember what you say, but how you make them feel. In order to manage your brand, these are the first 3 steps I want you to take. 1, self-awareness. Because we do a lot of things on autopilot, that little head talking inside, try and be self-aware. How are you talking in front of your manager, in front of your colleagues, in meetings, virtual meetings, in front of people? Try and begin to see yourself. Observe yourself. Don't just criticize yourself. Try and monitor, how are you interacting? Try and understand who you are at a much deeper level, but become self-aware is the first step. 2, in order to build your brand, you must be authentic. Even a 5-year-old child can tell if you are being authentic or not. And at work, we as women are told not to bring your personal life at work or, separate that. But yet we are human beings. With some of our colleagues, we spend many, many times working with them. And in order for you to build any kind of relationship with anyone, you have to be authentic. And the only way you are authentic is through my story, my opinion, my view, my take. I mean, I have a whole, guys, you can sign up. I do this a lot more in detail. We have a freebie on the personal branding where I really talk about the difference between a sponsor and a mentor, and the importance of being very strategic in everybody in your company. Whose opinion is the most important? How do you now nurture that relationship with that individual? Who are the decision makers at work, behind closed doors? People are talking about you. How are you managing how are you telling your story? So you are narrating that in the mind of others. It is your responsibility, your job, building strategic relationships, managing your brand at work. It is still yours. As I said, please sign up and we will give you a whole free version. And then the 3rd step to build any kind of brand or relationship, whether online or offline, is to add value. If you think of all your family, the person that you give more time to, more money to, more support to, more advice to, you are closer, your relationship is deeper. If I'm at work and I'm going past the receptionist, hi, bye, versus how was your weekend? How are the kids? What have I done? Given time. You, in order to build any relationship, you have to start adding either time, resource, knowledge, support, any which way as we do. I'm conscious of time, so people don't remember what you say. People remember how you make them feel. Your brand belongs to you. Your leadership, how are people perceiving you? And if you want people to say, this is how you manage your brand, be strategic, be intentional, be consistent, and be authentic. If you exhibit a behavior once, you're not going to get the consistency. You have to do something. You cannot give yourself a keyword. If you would like to be known as a leader who encourages its employees. How do you manifest that? What behaviors do you need to happen? And you cannot endorse yourself, i.e., you cannot say, I'm a great employee or I'm a great leader of encouraging people. Others have to endorse you. And that's all part of managing your brand. To finish up, I want you to ask yourself, does your career fit you? And the question you ask is this: do I like what I do? Do I like who I do it for, the company? Do I like with whom, the people you work with? You always get 50-50 here. And do you like how you do it? You see, what you do and how you do it, a lot depends on your company. I can be head of recruitment, head of talent acquisition, head of whatever it may be. But if I today start working for a very, let's say, Amazon, or I start working for a bank like Equity, how I am going to do my job changes. What I do does not change, but how I do my job changes. Maybe in Equity, they will use more agencies. If I like headhunting, I don't want to work in a job where the headhunting is now delegated. So what you do, most people like, especially if you've done it for 10 years. If you're feeling frustrated, it's more likely in how you are doing it, for who and with whom. So this is another way that will really help you evaluate your career. Also, going back to your career is not a competition. And each single one of us have different requirements, not only through our different phases, but also, what does a successful career look like to you? Is it more status? Is it more impact in your career? Is it more international exposure? What you needed early, what you need middle, what you need later will substantially shift. So be aware that your career, your life is not a competition. Know what are your key drivers. And essentially we have 4. And I want you to learn how to prioritize throughout each phase. So in your next job, what is it that you are looking for? For someone who is in the middle, let's say someone in the early phase. Someone in the early phase is more likely to say, I want to be taught new skills. I'm looking at learning, more exposure, development. I want to learn new things. What am I looking for next? Most women will go for status, then money, and that can be interchangeable depending on you as an individual, and work-life balance becomes at the bottom. That is in your first phase. I want to learn a lot. I want to also have responsibility. Yes, money is important, but I am much more interested in what I'm learning, more responsibility. Money is good. Work-life balance is not so important. Now, let's say I'm in the middle phase of my career. Then work-life balance becomes number 1. I have children right now. Work-life balance becomes very important. Status becomes very important. And sometimes seniority, status, more responsibility. And sometimes we go work-life balance, status, money, and then learning new things. Or work-life balance, money, status. But one of the key drivers that we have in our middle phase is more money, not just more responsibility, but more money. If you are in the latter phase of your career, what you are mostly interested in first is that work-life balance, and then money. For sure, money. You just want to make those big money. Yes, status is also important in terms of leadership. Learning new things becomes to come at the bottom. So again, different phases, different things that you need.